What I'm going to presenting some of the things that could change, like the wage tax, these drafts about financing, so we can do that too.
And I just want you guys, this is my last thing I'm going to say too, you bring something else I need to question. But just remember, like in your study, and especially like with wage taxes and city tax increase or whatever you may think of, remember too, that the homeowners and the businesses in Beaver Falls also pay a school tax. And we're obligated to raise that school tax, whether we want to or not, every other year. And we have to raise it at a minimum, but it has to get raised. So you're not going to keep homeowners and businesses if the city and the school is hitting up for higher taxes. And we do get that. We get that often from businesses and residents. But we show them the information that this is from state and federal funding. We have to. We can't vote not to. We can vote the bare minimum, but we would have to do it every other year. Where I know the city has more leeway because I have looked into that. But just to give you a heads up, you'll get a lot of people either not moving in or a lot more businesses moving out if you have too many taxes being raised at simultaneously.
I think as Kevin explained it to us, I think the beauty of moving to the home rule charter is we can change some of the structure, so you can shift the tax burden away from homeowners and to earned income or income earners, if that makes sense.
I understand.
Yeah, so you don't have to.
Tax isn't going to go to business owners.
So you're going to tax. Okay,
No. We don't have. We don't know anything
so
yet.
you're going to tax people who are working. Yep. Oh, y'all might have to fight on that one.
Yeah.
It's just an option.
But
It's not something we had.
The other option is we could potentially increase taxes on homeowners. And a lot of our homeowners are on fixed income. A lot of our homeowners are.
You got to think too. A lot of the majority of Beaver Falls is not middle class. We are a low class. We're a poverty city and a diverse city.
Yeah.
So if you even tax somebody who's making minimum wage to $10 an hour and has kids, a single family, you take $10 out of their paycheck. That $10 was already allocated for something for them to get to the next paycheck.
Oh yeah.
So that's a considerable. You know what I mean? That's something you really would have. That's
Nobody's saying that we're doing that. Remember, we're just learning.
Yeah.
We're learning how to do it and then how to most equitably handle not going bankrupt. Yeah. So that's a thing that we need to hear from people about, and we need to learn as much as we can about. We're not like, hey, we're just going to tax everybody. That's not what we're about.
Yeah, you'll definitely.
That's not.
Definitely get some backlash from that.
Right, and if it's not the right fit, then it's not going to get passed, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
so I mean, it's in our interest if we want, if we want to change things, it's got to be something that most people can do, right? Yeah. So, yep.
Okay, we can.
Thank you.
I
Jennifer.
typed my
Thank you.
questions, so I'm glad you all.
Oh, those are great questions.
I just have to say,
we need the community.
yeah, I was just going to say, this is so valuable. As a committee, we just seeing all of you here, knowing that this matters is so encouraging. So thank you, and bring all your questions and your concerns. It's way better to have passionate people, even if there were a disagreement, which there isn't. But even if there were, it's so much better to have you here than to not. Thank you. So thank you.
So based on the discussion leaning towards the Zoom meeting agenda revolving around the finances.
Well, I think we ought to keep with the structure first.
Structure first?
Yeah, because that's what we started on, and I don't know that we necessarily finished all of our options, but if we can kind of plow through that part, really explore and talk more about all of our options, which we can do some tonight too.
Yeah.
But I think we ought to just.
I think Jerry's
I
ready
put
for
the
that.
spreadsheet, I'm gonna guess that. No,
Yeah.
I put a spreadsheet together, I went through all the, home rule charters that were 35 cities in Beaver Falls and sort of did what I call the Cliff Notes version. I think we had some interesting ideas of how other cities have changed from 35 city to
Thank you, Chair.
what they decided upon, and it's all over the place.
I'm going to share this because if that's okay, because I have a copy.
Basically, what I did is I sort of segregated into, I call them job responsibilities. So I segregated what the responsibilities for each community is: the mayor, council, city manager, they have one, how the finance department is structured, and other notes, just miscellaneous ideas that they come into the home rule charter. Codification is a big deal. Some have referendums and some don't have them. If you get a chance to look over those, and like I said in that email that I sent you, something strikes your interest, or if you have a question, we have all the charters in our Google Drive. So you can take a look at that.
Great work, Jerry.
Yeah, this is a lot of work.
So this might give us some ideas. I agree with person. We probably should concentrate on this first, especially at the next meeting. Mike, the next thing, he's probably going to finish his third class city code presentation. So we should have all that out of the way. Yeah, we can go into the finances.
Is that all right, Faith?
So, just a reminder, Michael is here via Zoom. So we need to make sure that he has time to say whatever he.
Now, just for the public, Michael is, I've got too much stuff on here. Michael is, I'm gonna introduce him here. Michael Foreman is the local government policy specialist of PA Department of Community and Economic Development. A big title. And he can hear us, he can hear the whole entire meeting. So if he has any input he would like to share at this time, Michael, we'll open it up to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the very constructive and sharing of various perspectives on this process as you move forward. At the last meeting 2 weeks ago, I made a presentation regarding provisions in the third class city code and what a general council manager form of government would look like and a mayor council manager form of government would look like regarding specific and key provisions in the third class city code. And I will quickly review. The first area I looked at was the appointment of employees by council under the third class city code and what the options would be or the choices under a council manager and mayor council manager form of government. I also talked about the number of council members under the third class city code, which you have now, and how the structure could change under a council manager and mayor council manager form of government. And some of the information you're now looking at that Jerry put together relative to various home rule charters and how they separate powers and responsibilities with regard to the mayor and council, and whether council is a member of, whether the mayor is a member of council, either elected by the electorate or elected by the council to serve as the presiding officer.
Hey, Michael, I'm going to interrupt you again. I did this to you last time, and I'm going to do it again. In 2 weeks, we want you to finish the presentation that you started 2 weeks ago. But tonight, all we wanted you to do is, you've heard us talking around for 45 minutes here. Is there anything that you would like to add to our conversation tonight? And then next week, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be back on Zoom and we'll want you to finish your presentation. So what we're asking now is there any input you want to give based on the conversation that we've had just for the last 45 minutes? And then next time, 2 weeks from now, we'll let you finish your presentation.
I'll make some brief comments. Thank you. With regard to the two key concepts that were introduced tonight, one of which is the structure, and then the other was finances. With respect to structure, you have basically two choices in how you structure the governing body and how it relates to the appointed officials. The two choices basically are, again, under a council manager form of government. And the second choice is under a strong mayor council manager form of government, and how those powers and duties and responsibilities are distributed with respect to not only the elected officials, which would be a mayor and a council, but also the appointed, the chief administrative officer, known as an administrator like you have now, or a manager like you have now. They're terms that are interchangeable. And we can get into greater detail as part of my presentation next in 2 weeks about how those two choices are structured, again, under the concept of the structure of the local government with regard to the governing body and the manager and the appointed department heads, and who has the power to make those appointments. Ideally, it's a shared relationship between the governing body and the chief administrative officer. With regard to finances, the Home Rule Charter law, the Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans law, as it's called, provides the opportunity for home rule communities to not be required to follow the tax caps and rate caps that are currently required under a third-class city. And they mainly focus on an earned income tax, a real estate tax, and a deed transfer tax. And the interplay between the earned income tax and the property tax allows a home rule community to focus on a taxpayer's ability to pay one or the other taxes based upon how they're determined. A property tax millage rate and what is paid from that millage rate is based upon a fixed value of taxable property established by the county when it values property. The second look-see is under earned income tax, which is based upon someone's income and a percentage rate and what levy that generates. And it becomes generally acceptable and normally accepted that one's ability to pay is better looked upon through an income tax than it is a property tax. The third option, where you're not tied to a rate cap, is under the deed transfer tax that, as you know, is paid at the point of sale of property, normally by the buyer. So that will also come into play when you look at drafting the provisions of your home rule charter with regard to the flexibility of the tax mix that you want to look at to continue to generate revenue sufficient to pay for your operations. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Hey, Mike, I have one quick question. Home Rule Charter, can you, Act 205 apply?
I didn't hear the last part.
Act 205, yeah, that's all.
Oh, yes. Under Act 205 of 1984, which is generically called the Municipal Employee Pension Law. It's a state of Pennsylvania law. There are no rate caps with regard to using those two tax options. You can increase the earned income tax when you're at your cap, as you would be under a third-class city code for earned income, or you could choose a property tax as a way to generate additional money for your pension liabilities. To get right to your question as an answer, when you're a home rule community does not have the ability to levy a pension levy, if that's to be redundant, does not have the ability to levy an Act 205 pension levy on residents under the earned income tax, because home rule gives you the ability to raise the earned income tax without any caps. However, under Act 205, you do have the ability to tax non-resident earned income tax at a rate either equal to or less than what your earned income tax rate is on residents under your home rule charter.
Under home rule, you can't charge somebody non-resident income tax.
No.
Why would you charge somebody who's not a resident?
They come into the city to work, but they don't live in the city.
That's why you have lived in, worked in on your,
We already pay an occupation tax.
Did you hear my question, Mike?
no, you need to speak up.
No, I did not.
To keep the
Yes.
feedback down, this is the only mic that's live.
What's your question for him?
I said, under home rule, does that mean we cannot charge an earned income tax to a non-resident that works in the city?
Under Act 205, you have, let me start over. Under home rule, you cannot tax non-residents beyond 1%. And under that 1% rate, 0.5% would go to the city and 0.5% would go to the school district, generically speaking. However, if you're allowed to have an Act 205 earned income tax levy on non-residents, the answer is yes. You may tax non-residents' earned income higher than 1%, but it's under Act 205, not under home rule.
That's good news. I think that's good. I think that was somewhere in the packet that Kevin Kunzelman gave us.
So clarify that, you want to tax people who work in the city of Beaver Falls?
Right now, people, non-residents of Beaver Falls who work in Beaver Falls are taxed at a 1%.
Right, they have an occupation tax.
Right, so, but under 205, not under home rule, but under 205, you have the ability to tax people above that 1%. If you're taxing them higher, if you're changing, if we were changing the wage tax, the employment tax, then we could also change it for non-residents. Under Act 205.
Okay, my question for that is, we probably have more fast food workers in Beaver Falls than anybody else that's making low income wages. Or we have nonprofit businesses.
Yeah, Geneva.
What do they
Yeah.
Not enough.
And do they pay? I mean, I don't know, this seems like it's gonna hit the most impoverished people in the pocket more than it's gonna hit anybody else.
But we haven't changed anything.
No, I'm saying,
Yeah.
according to that's, it's gonna hit people who barely get by more than it's gonna hit anybody else.
The tax example that Kevin gave us, it says raising earned income tax by 0.5% is going to cost the taxpayer $50 for every 10,000 earned. So based on the median income of the Beaver Falls worker at $35,368, they would be paying $176.84 in increased income tax per year.
Okay, so where's the city getting it? Because what he just said is 50% of that goes to the school.
That's on non-residents.
Yeah.
Let me be clear that if you're levying an Act 205 non-resident earned income tax, the first obligation is to pay where the employee lives. And any rate that's left over would then go to the city of Beaver Falls for pension purposes.
So that's just one.
For pension,
Pension fund, that's. not-
which helps because
Then the city doesn't have to pay that money.
we
out.
are, that's part of the drag on our
Oh,
budget
yeah,
is
that's
paying
different.
pension.
Everybody got
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But we don't, like, it just helps split it out more, so that that's not the only burden on residents.
I'm very math savvy, so I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
no, yeah.
So, but it's just those numbers, I don't know if you all are considering that, those numbers would not equal out to much for the city's pension fund versus $50 over a year
Well, those were his figures.
for projected
Yeah.
purposes, theoretical purposes. But that $50, really, you're not going to get a whole bunch to impose a tax like that towards the pension fund with all the backlash you may get from it, because you still gotta pay that, like he said, you still have to pay you still have to pay where they live at.
We're still talking about two different things though, because what Regina's talking about
Is
is if we change, and that is only on people that work in Beaver Falls or live in Beaver Falls.
So you're not talking about.
She's not talking about 205. Under 205, we would additionally, and again, this is all theoretical. It just means that you can also raise tax on people that don't live in the city. And that goes directly and only into pension, which means that Beaver Falls has a little bit less that they have from our bucket that we have to put into pension, and more that we can spend on the things that we also have to spend on, like wages.
Let me also clarify that the amount of money that the city puts into its pensions has to remain at that same level, even when you levy, even when you levy an Act 205 earned income tax. In other words, you have to maintain your funding under your current revenue stream.
Right.
But if you have additional unfunded actuarial or accrued liabilities to your pension plan that necessitate an additional levy, the city still has to put in that baseline amount, but through the levy of the Act 205 earned income tax on non-residents, that additional amount would go in through that additional levy.
So we still be required to do the MMOs, minimum municipal contribution.
He said we would still be required to do. He can't. Oh.
This is the microphone here.
So what Jerry was asking is the city would still be required to do the MMOs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the city of Beaver Falls, do you have what's called, and don't be offended, but these are normally called distressed pension plans, where you're at a level 2 or level 3 that allows you to have a additional earned income tax on non-residents to fund your pension plans?
Not 100% sure, but I don't think we are. I think we're in a much firmer position, Jerry, aren't we, with regard to pension?
We have none of those items that you just mentioned.
This discussion may be moot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After all that.
Yeah.
Any other concerns, questions? No?
Remember, these aren't things we're doing. These are things we're learning about.
Yeah.
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 We are
Not like that.
researchers.
Yeah, we're just learning what all the options are.
So, and again, for the public, please go on our Facebook page, because Faith makes sure that the links to the Zoom meetings are there. She's real good about that, and you can join right in. If you don't feel comfortable coming into the city building, it's always the first Thursday of the month in here. The third Thursday of the month, everybody stays home on Zoom.
Now, is your Zoom open for public
Yes.
participation
Yes.
and
Yes.
commentary?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why I said, please go to our Facebook page, because Faith will have that link, that Zoom link will be there.
There'll be a time, like, so that we don't miss you, we usually have a time for when we're gonna, and then you can always, I tend to monitor the chat too, so if you need to say something, then I'll try to keep my eye on that.
And then as a fail-safe, we record all those and they're available. So if you miss, something doesn't work out, you can't join the Zoom meeting, you can go back and look at what it is, what we talked about.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep. We're all under the Sunshine Act.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
Yep.
Complete transparency.
Yep.
I may have not known to press record on this until
Oh.
halfway through. Halfway through.
Just
So,
saying.
halfway through.
Don't
this
blame
is
it on the
recorded.
public here.
So this half of this meeting will be
Phew,
recorded.
that speech I made at the
I
meeting.
know.
Oh,
God.
good stuff.
God. Okay, but we didn't have any of our other in-person meetings recorded.
You would have to be, yeah, consult.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Wait, oh gosh,
All
oh
right,
gosh.
call the meeting at 8:06 PM, and we hope that everyone joins the Zoom meeting on, it would be Thursday, the 17th, 7 PM.
If somebody brings up, you know, like, that they aren't able to join, but they want to, let me know. Maybe we can get in here even and have a group if we need to. So if people don't have access to technology or something, I'll see what we can do. So. Yeah, just in case anybody brings it up, like I can't make it or I don't have the ability to do it. Let us know.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.